when you give a speech, one of the things you don't think about is the thing that, of course, happens. And that is that when you're practicing speech and working at it, you probably aren't thinking about what will happen if something weird happens in the middle, so things take a little longer than I've been planning. Don't think about that. Don't want it to happen. So you don't think about it. You think, well, it's not going to happen. I've planned everything out. I've worked everything out. I know my speech. I've got it all the way down. I've got 40 minutes. I've got 30 minutes. I've got 20 minutes. Everything is great. No problem. Everything's going to be fine. But when you get to the actual speech and you're giving it, sometimes the audience laughs at your jokes longer than you expected. Or maybe they don't laugh. And you pause a long time hoping they're going to laugh. Or maybe just you say something and you start a kind of audience Q&A and that starts to go a little bit crazy and you have to kind of cut it off. Or you just kind of get into the groove and it's going on, you're freewheeling, and all of a sudden you're going a little bit longer than you thought you would. And all of a sudden, you're heading much more quickly than you thought to the home stretch. But you've got a lot of things to cover still. Your speech is called 3 Ways to Become a Better Leader, and you've only covered 2. And you got 5 more minutes to go. What do? Well, as mentioned, because most people don't plan those sort of situations, they just panic, or they try to talk really, really fast. Or they start cutting out every other word, hoping it's going to work out. But it doesn't. At all. And as you give that speech, it went on just a little bit too long, you keep on going, all of a sudden you find that you're out of time and you're nowhere near your end. So you just stop. Or you try to throw in a few closing remarks and they really don't hit. And the whole thing just sits there and stinks. And that carefully planned speech you do with all the different parts, it just fell apart right in front of the audience's eyes. Because you didn't think it through. You didn't know this sort of thing had happened. And it's happening in front of you. You're thinking, how did that happen? What am I going to do? And afterwards you think, whew, man, that didn't go well at all. Well, you might be thinking, Tim, it's real simple. You just make sure those things don't happen to you. You plan better. You work it out better. Well, here's the secret. Those things are going to happen anyway. No matter how well you plan it out, if you're speaking in front of a live audience, the audience has its own ideas, its own thoughts. And since speaking is a dialogue with your audience, sometimes your audience dialogue will go on a little bit too long. It'll kind of mess you up. So you've got to have a plan. Have a way to finish strong. Have a way to finish strong, even when you aren't feeling necessarily that strong. Just be able to finish strong. It'll tie everything together. And fortunately, there are things you can do. In fact, there's a 3-step process you can use to make sure you finish strong in your speech. And what it'll do is it'll take some of the terror away, some of the fear, some of the worries away. So instead of thinking, oh, am I going to hit my mark? You think, okay, I know what to do. It's all right. Just do it. It's okay. Didn't get every point out. It's fine. But I planned for this. Yeah, it's called 3 points and I only got through 2. Well, fine. They can have me back and I give the 3rd point the next time. But I'm going to finish strong and it's going to be good. And you'll find that if you finish strong and get those points across and really kind of make that summing up process work, and even if it didn't go exactly as planned, the audience will forgive you. You'll feel more confident, more certain about yourself, just by understanding and using this 3-step procedure. Make sure those disasters happen. You're ready for them. In fact, when you're working through your speech, maybe you think everything important is important in the speech. All the speech is important all the way through. And you got to kind of just sort of freewheel through your way and cover all these numerous points and get through everything. And it's true that all of your speech is important. But there's one particular part of your speech that's really, really, really important. And if you blow that, the whole speech falls apart. If you blow that, your speech just doesn't work. It falls apart in front of your eyes. And people just think, what happened up there? And you think, what happened up there? But you can get out of that if you remember this one thing. The first step is know your close. Know your close. The mistake a lot of speakers make is they think they got to memorize the speech all the way through, on the one hand. So they got to get every single word correct all the way through. Or they think they can just freewheel everything all the way through the speech. It's all right, and just make it up as they go along. Well, both ideas are wrong. But one thing is, if you want to finish strong, you got to know what that finish is. Makes sense, right? I mean, if you're going to finish strong and make your point, you have to know what your point is and how you want to make it. So that means you need to really, really know that closing lines. How long they're going to be. How much time you really need at the end to get that close across. How much time do you really need? Now, if you've got a speech, say it's a 20-minute speech, maybe your close is simple. 5 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes. Something like that. Boom, close, no problem. But if you have a 45-minute speech, maybe or an hour speech, or 2 hours, or 5 hours, or whatever it is, if it's some sort of seminar, maybe that close is 10 minutes, 15 minutes, to really get all the points you're trying to get in there said. Probably a lot of closes will be around 10 minutes, but it depends upon your speech. But whatever it is, know the length of your close and know what you're going to say. That means the close is one thing you don't just go up there and just kind of make up. You've got to really have it structured. Exactly what you're going to do. Exactly how you're going to do it. Well, one thing you do in the close is you recap everything that came on before. So these are all the things you learned today, which is handy because even if you didn't cover it, at least you can cover it in the close. Even if you missed that in your main speech, at least in the close when you mention it. So I wouldn't have time to talk about this in detail, but the third step is, the second step is, whatever it is, there it is. Finally, people will at least get the 3 ways, the 3 steps, because it's there in the close. And then in addition to that, people will get the idea, okay, here are the things going on, and they'll understand about why they're supposed to be doing something. You really sell them on it, which means the words are pretty important. It means the words that close, how you say them, really want to get that close in your head about, okay, that's what I'm going to say. I'm going to recap all these points, all right, from the main speech. But then you want to get some point. You really want the audience to take a step they want the audience to do or take or think about. Get that close in mind. Because you want to close strongly and powerful. The audience thinks, they don't think just, oh, that was a speech. Okay. The audience to think, oh, well, I better get working on that. Better take some action. So close ideally motivates the audience, gets them taking some sort of simple action they can take right when they leave. Or before they leave. That's what the close is all about. It wraps everything up. So you got to know it cold, understand it, get it down. So that's the first step. Know your close. Know that close, exactly what it's going to be. Once you know your close, then you can start to do something about figuring out, okay, how are you going to make this work? How do you make sure that all this close stuff gets into your speech? And that's where the second step comes in handy. So, okay, you know your close. You know what you're going to say at the end. You got it straight in your head. It all makes sense. It all kind of coming together. Fabulous. Great. And you know how long that close is going to be. You understand you're going to recap things and you're somehow going to get the audience to take some sort of step, some sort of thing is going to happen, and that's what the close is all about. Getting the audience motivated, summarize your speech, and get the audience motivated and take some simple next step in their life to make things happen. Okay, great, first step. Then, how do you really make that work? Okay, you know your close, great, but there's something missing there. Because if you do give a speech, and all of a sudden you discover, oh, I left out all this thing, or I went a little longer than I thought, and now I got to do something, I got to get this close in, well, how do you do that? And here's the thing that speakers quite often forget, and that is, know how to transition to your close. Know how to transition to your close. So, you want to know your close, but you also want to understand how to transition. And that's what speakers don't really think about. How are you really going to get from where you are to this close section? And different parts of your speech, you'll transition differently. So if you're going for your first point, oh, oops, all of a sudden I got to go to my close and recap everything. Well, here's point 1. Didn't have time for points 2 and 3, but here they are. Okay, great. But because you're transitioning from point 1, you got to somehow away from point 1 to this wrapping things up, to this close. Or if you transition from point 2, you still have to get to the close to wrap things up. So that's a challenge. Really getting that point in there. How do you transition? How do you make a point from one place to the other place? That's what it's all about. Closing and transitioning. See, it's not enough to know, okay, that's where I pointed, that's where I'm going. It's not enough. You got to know, okay, that's where I'm going, but how am I going to get there? How am I going to direct myself from here all the way over to there? There are different ways to do it. So take a look. Take a look at the different transitions you can use, different methods, different approaches, and figure it out. Because that's what really is going to do it. That transition. And in a way, it'll convince your audience that, oh, I get it. You know, I meant to go there. I meant to go from where I am to over there. So if your transitions are smooth, if your transitions really work, then when you transition to the close, your audience buys it. Like, oh, okay, yeah, okay, I get it. You're done here, all right, yeah, now it's time to close. But that means that transition has to work. That transition has to flow smoothly from one step to the other, and that just doesn't happen. You don't get transitions naturally happening in your speech. The only way those transitions happen is if you say, lay them out and get them to happen. So, okay, I'm going to practice transitioning here. Oh, okay, I'm going to practice transitioning here. Because it's that transition. It's from getting one point to another place smoothly. So this point leads to the next. So the audience really believes that, oh, okay, we started here, we're way over here, but it's okay. I get it. Because I see the interconnections. I see how these things happen. And in developing transitions, think about that interconnection. Like, where do I start? Where do I end? What do I want to put in the middle to make it look like it's natural change from this to that? So it isn't just, oh, I'm talking about point 1, and now to wrap things up. That's a little abrupt. I'm talking about point 1, going through some things. This is the process. Okay, the whole process is, we talked about point 1. There are more steps in the process. The whole point 1, you know, just recap that briefly. It's that smooth transition that's going to make things work. Smooth transition from one point to the other. When you get that, anywhere in your speech, you know how to transition to that close, you've got a powerful tool. You've got a great tool because you know how to go from here over to there and just do it. Make it work. One thing missing. All right. You're pretty much almost done. You know your close. You know what it is. You know exactly how you're going to finish, how you're going to make it strong and powerful and interesting, engage people, give them that next step to take. And you know transitions. From anywhere in your speech, you can get from point A to point B. So anytime you need to get from point A to point B, from the first point, you got 3 points, you go from the first point to the close, the second point to the close, third point to the close. Anywhere you need to go, depending upon how much time you have in your speech, you can make that transition. But there's just one more thing you need. Because what happens quite often is people get up there and they get going and they get all involved in things, and all of a sudden, wow, what happened? The time got away from me. And then they blow the close because didn't know what's coming up. And that's why you need to make sure you have some cue to close. You need a cue to close. So it's great that you know the close. You understand the close, you get how it works, fantastic. You know your close, and you know how to transition to your close. Fantastic. But you need somebody to cue you to close. You need a cue to close. And that can be as simple as taking your phone, that smartphone. You do have a smartphone, right? I think it's almost required by law these days to have a smartphone. Every human being on earth will have a smartphone, or they have to explain why not, why they don't. So just take your smartphone and take that timer function, set the timer to vibrate, and set that timer to go off whatever the length of that close is. If you've got a 5-minute close, set the timer to go off 5 minutes before your speech is supposed to end. Got a 10-minute close, set the timer to go off 10 minutes before your speech goes in. So you need a cue to close. When you get that cue, boom, transition, jump to the close. Just cue to close, got it, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to close right there. And that's the key thing, is when you're on stage, and you're going on different things are fine, you're getting this back and forth conversation, the audience is like, oh wow, I went a little too long. Or you're going to give a speech, this happens a lot of times, and they just take your speech and cut the crap out of it, and all of a sudden you had a 40-minute speech, now you're giving a 20-minute speech. You don't know quite how to do that. All you need to do is make sure you finish with that close. So you're going through as best you can, string, okay, I wanted to cover this point, oh, that went on too long, that point's way too long. All right, got my cue to close, now I'm going to cover all 3 points. Or, got my cue to close, now only cover 1 point, it's up to you. But you want to get that close together, get that finish strong. I mean, if you have a speech called 3 points, to do something, and then cut your time off, so you have no time to explain anything, it's all right, you still can at least get 3 points into the close. That's probably the best thing to do. If they're making last-minute changes on stage, and they cut your speech way down, okay, the close at least will contain all those parts in it. So once you get that cue to close, boom, jump it, transition, make that close. And doing that will give you a whole new strength, confidence, certainty of your speaking, because you're ready to go. Now the thing about it is being aware of that cue to close. So if you're going rambling on and your pocket is going off and buzzing like crazy and you're ignoring it, that's your own fault. When you get that cue to close, bam, jump on it. Transition and go right to the closing. Doesn't matter what you're doing. Doesn't matter what part of the speech you're in. Don't even try to finish up that part of the speech. Instantly transition, go on your close. If you do that, take the cue to close, and then close when you get that cue to close. You'll be closing strong and finishing strong. And really make that speech happen. It can be a challenge to give a speech because quite often, you don't know how long that speech is going to be. Sometimes people cut at the last moment. Or you think you know how long the speech is supposed to be, but because of this back and forth nature of a conversation with the audience, it goes a little too long or a little too short. In order to finish strong, you want to keep in mind these 3 steps. First, know your close. Know what the heck you're doing to close up that speech. Know exactly what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. In general, the close, you recap the points you made earlier, and you give a strong next step for the audience to take, a simple next step for the audience to take. So have it all there. Know the words you're going to say, what words they are. Don't just make it up on the fly. Really thinking about what are you really going to cover, how are you going to cover it. So you make sure that close gets there. It's strong, it's powerful, it's something that's really going to get the audience going. It's really thought out, it's really planned out. That's what the whole close is about. Okay, once you got to know your close, make sure you know how to transition your close. Know how to transition your close from anywhere in your speech. So from anywhere in your speech, you can get to that close. The thing about it is you can't just jump from point 1 here to point 1 now to cover my 3 points. You've got to make that smooth. And that's the transition. So start thinking, okay, well, how am I going to transition if I only get 1 point out, but I need to recap 3 points? Okay, what would that transition be? What would I get 2 points out and I need to recap 3 points? What would I get all 3 points out? But if I go into something and I'm halfway through point 2, then how do I transition? Practice different places in your speech. And just imagine, okay, I have to stop right there, jump to the close. How would I do that? How would I make that smooth? How would I make that flow? How would I make everything along there just move nicely? That's what you want to do. And think about. And then, finally, cue your close. Cue your close. Once you know your close, you know how to transition your close, you got to find some way to cue yourself on stage to know when you got to go to that close. So if you got 5 minutes close, and you got a 45-minute speech, that means when the 40-minute mark hits in your speech, bam, someone's got to cue you to get to that close. You got a 10-minute close, you got an hour-long speech. That means 50 minutes of that speech, someone's got to cue you to get to that close. And that's the key. Someone cue you. And a simple thing to do is just have your phone on vibrate, set the timer. 10 minutes before, just thing goes off. Set at the beginning, you got a 50-minute speech, got a 10-minute close. 40 minutes in, that buzzer goes off. Cue your close. But make sure you're aware. If you cue your close and you ignore it, then that kind of defeats the whole purpose. So all the way through, you're thinking, okay, great, nothing's buzzed yet. But when it does buzz, boom, be ready to go. And do it instantly. You're right in the middle of your second point, that thing goes off, you know you got to recap all 3 points, boom, go for it. Use that transition you've been practicing, right? And then go all the way, close down that speech. Speaking is a challenge. It's difficult. A lot of it because it's uncertain. Because you're in front of a live audience, you never know exactly how things are going to get. And since most speeches today aren't simply lectures, there has to be some audience interaction. It's a conversation with the audience. It depends upon how long the conversation goes. If a conversation goes a little bit longer than you planned, or not as long as you planned, it's going to mess up your timing. And that will affect your close. Since the last thing people remember your close, you want to make sure that close really happens well. But if you really practice this method, it's 1, 2, 3 method of know your close, know your transitions to your close, and cue your close, you'll discover a new confidence, a new certainty. You get in that stage, boom, you know you can finish strong, you can finish powerfully. When you get that buzz, you got to cue your close, and you go all the way in, and you finish that speech strong and powerfully, and you hear that applause afterwards, you'll know, you'll be glad you practice on how to finish strong.